Hello guys, welcome to this video tutorial where we will be learning how we can add file format and size validation to file upload in Nest.js with GraphQL. So let's get started. So as you can see, I'm already following the same code that we have created, we have developed in our previous tutorial. So you can view our previous Nest.js file upload tutorial in GraphQL to follow along with this tutorial. Basically, you can use that code. So let's get started. So first of all, I'm going to show basically tell you how exactly are we basically validating the file size. So one thing to keep note here is that we will be using basically Nestjs transformation pipes for file validation. So to do that, basically we've created two different directories called pipes and utils. So basically we will be creating a new file validation pipe inside this pipes directory. So let's get started. So as you can see, this command has created a file validation pipe for us. So now what we are going to do is, first of all, we will be validating whether the file has been provided or not. So if the file doesn't have the file name, then it means that file was not provided. Okay, so this value property will be contain the data related to file that we already get in our app resolver also, like this. So basically this upload class basically this upload class data will be available in this value parameter. So we will be destructuring the properties from this value. Parameter. So the first value will be file name, MIME type, and create read stream. So these are three different properties that we will be picking up from this parameter. So now we will be creating two different utility functions. One of them will be used for validating the file format, and the other one will be used for validating the file size. So to do that, we will do something like this. So basically, first of all, we will be creating this utility function in our utilities directory. So we will be creating an index file, and then we will be creating a file.utils.ts. we will be exporting. So this is a good approach to follow. So you can always import from the base index file. You don't have to import from each and every file itself. So here we will be creating two different methods for one for validating the file format, the other one will be for validating the file size. So first one would be it will be called validate file format. It would not be a synchronous function. Okay, so it will take two parameters. First one would be file name and the other one would be allowed file types or allowed file formats. It will be an array of string. So basically you can also use enums with this one. So for this tutorial we are just going with the simple strings. Okay, so in this validate file format, so basically what we will be doing is that we will be splitting our file name based on dot, and as you know, our file extension is present after the dot, so we will be splitting the file based on the dot and picking up the last element from the file parts array. So that will be our extension. So it will be always be picking the basically the substring after the last dot. So I will do basically something like this: file parts equals to file name dot split, and it will be based on dot, and to get the extension we will be basically using file parts of file parts dot length minus 1. So basically what it is doing, that this file parts array contains the basically splitted array based on dots, and we will be picking up the last element from this file part. So that will be our extension. So now we will be checking if this extension is present in the allowed file format. So what we will be doing is return allowed file formats dot includes extension. So it checks whether if the allowed file formats that have been provided contain this is the extension of the file. So if it does, then it will return true. If it doesn't, then it will return false. So this is our file form validate file format method. So basically now we can import this method validate file format, and one thing to mention here is that it is always a good idea to basically organize your imports. So to organize the import structure, it would be a good way would be to keep the node module imports first, then when all the node modules have been imported, then you give a white space, and then you import if there are some alias based imports available, then you can basically have alias based imports, like something like maybe if you have any internal alias based import, like maybe common slash something. So after like this, so after these alias based imports, then you can give another white space, and then you can actually go for relative imports like this. So okay, so yeah, so it basically organizes your code in a good way. All right, so we will be picking up this basically destructuring this method and then from the imports, and basically then we will be passing it the required data, which will be file name and allowed file format. So as I already told you, we can use enums here, but for now I am just going with this normal file size file formats. So I will be directly hard coding these values. So it will be PNG and JPG. So if there is any other format of the file that is uploaded, if the file format is different, then it will be throwing an error. So our first part is done. Let us just test it out. So I have my entire GraphQL client here. We are already using the mutations from previous tutorials, so you can just follow along. So as you can see, basically we will be trying to upload a file with different format, because our file format that our application supports is JPG and PNG that we have already basically validated. So let us just try uploading a WebP format file. So if I upload it, it should throw an error of file format invalid. Okay, it's not doing that. Just a second. Okay, all right. I forgot to basically add the file validation pipe to our argument. So just a second. To add file validation pipe to our arguments, we will be just passing it as the second parameter to this args decorator. So file validation pipe, I will be organizing the import side by side. So we don't have any other. Okay, all of these are node module imports, and now this one is relative import. So now it should be validating our basically file format. Before doing that, what I would suggest is to return a value from here, so it can pass it to the our next function, which is our mutation, resolver mutation. So yeah, let's just test it out. Now if I try uploading the WebP is selected, so now if I try uploading this WebP file, it should throw an error. So let's just do it. Okay, now you can see here file format is not valid, file format not valid, that we have this error that we have here. Okay, so another thing, I will be just removing this. So another thing is that if I try uploading any PNG image or JPG image, it should be uploading that. So to test that out, I'll just be selecting a PNG image. Let's just select this one maybe, and just try to upload it, and it should work properly. Okay, so this is image has been uploaded. So let's just check the distribution disk directory, and in uploads you can see this file. All right, so the first part of our tutorial is done. Okay, now what we are gonna do is basically we will be validating the file size. So to do that, what we are gonna do is we are gonna create a new utility function and our file utils, which will be validating file size for us. This function would be named as validate file size, and it would take two parameters. One of them would be a stream, and the other one would be the allowed file size. So to do that, we will be basically creating a function called validate file size. It would take a file stream that we have already destructured from our value file stream. It would be a read stream. The other one, the other parameter would be allowed file size in bytes. Okay, so this would be a number. Now what we need to basically do is that basically we will be returning a promise, which would basically this would be an asynchronous function which will be checking whether the file size is correct. So the way we will be doing the file validation would be to basically read the stream and just keep on counting the byte length, and then we check whether this byte length is in this specific range. Basically it is in the it is less than or equal to allowed file size in bytes. So let's do it. It will be resolve rechecked. Okay, so first of all, what we are gonna do is that we will be creating a variable called file size in bytes. Remember, it's always a good idea to name the variable in a very explanatory way, so any other developer who might be actually using your code, or we might be going through your code, he can easily understand it, or it will be also it can be understandable for you also in future. So file size in bytes, it will be 0. So now what we will be doing is file stream dot on data. We will be picking up data which is of type buffer, and in that we will be basically reading the length of the buffer length in bytes. So byte length. We will be also listening for the end event, which means the stream is over. So in this part we will be basically checking whether the file size in bytes is less than or equal to allowed file size in bytes. So if it is less than or equal to allowed file size, then it will be basically returning true, else it will be returning false, which is what we want. Another thing to listen to would be an error. If there is an error in reading stream, so for that we will be just throwing the error. Okay. All right. So now we will be using this function and this. So okay, so we can do it as reject. Sorry. All right. So now we will be using this file validate file size function in our basically in our file validation pipe, and there we can actually check for the file size. Okay, so one thing to mention, basically one thing to check is I will need to check for the files with the size greater than 10 MB. All right, so we will pick up this value, and we will be so we will be passing this as a allowed file size. So just a second. All right, so here we will be checking if the file size is valid. For that we need to use a wait validate file size. Okay, so this create read stream, we need to call this function to create a read stream. So we can do it here, basically here. Stream equals to create read stream. This create read stream will be returning a read stream from file system. So basically we will be passing this okay, let's just rename it to file stream, and we will be passing this file stream to this function, and with in allowed file size we will be passing this value. So it's not a good idea to pass this value hard coded. It's always a good idea to basically use constants. So but just for this tutorial I'm not gonna go that way. Also we are gonna basically use async with the transform function, and now we are gonna check whether if the file size is not valid, then we throw a file size error. All right, so I am assuming that our most of our work is done. So let us just try and test this. So to do that, we will go to our Altair GraphQL client, and Before doing the test, I'll just mention one thing, that I have actually increased the max file size in this parameter, just to make sure that we can upload files more than basically more than 10 to 20 MBs. So you can actually modify this value. So yeah, so now to test it out, what we will be doing is that we will be using our same old mutation for uploaded image, and now we will be I have an image which is of size 14 MB, I guess. So we can, okay, it's this image. So we can actually test this image to check whether the file size is being validated properly or not. So as we have checked for 10 MB, so if the file size is greater than 10 MB, which is in this case, so we will be throwing an error. So let us just test it out. Let us just send this request, and it should throw an error. Okay, great. So file size is not valid. So we will also testing the happy path. So just to test the happy path, we will just pass. Now this time we will be passing this file, which is of 27 KB. So it works. So we will be just running, and it should upload. Okay, it's done, it's uploaded. So let us just find this Xamarin logo file. So in this folder in upload, we can see Xamarin logo, this one. All right, so thank you guys, thank you for following this tutorial. I hope you have understood how we can basically use the power of validation, basically transformation pipes, to validate file types and file format and file size in Nest.js. Thank you very much.